Now to discuss, Evan Siegfried, president of SOM Consulting. Tammy Bruce and Rick Unger are back with us as well. Tammy, your thoughts?
Well, obviously, this is what everyone's discussing. There's new information, it seems like every 5 minutes, new claims. One thing I think that the Democrats want is for people to litigate this through innuendo and gossip. And we don't know what happened 36 years ago. We all can agree that we don't know what happened. We do know what happened, starting with Senator Feinstein getting that letter. And the choices she made at the time signal that this is exclusively a political assassination character attempt, right? That this is they wanted to delay this hearing. This was a Hail Mary pass, if you will. And those, I think, that's what needs to be discussed here. In the end result, of course, that Judge Kavanaugh said that he's willing to talk to the committee at any time, under oath, whatever. These new developments about her apparent reticence should also be taken into account, whether or not she doesn't want to speak under oath. But the bottom line is the Democrats seem in some ways to be regretting the nature of how this is proceeding because of her reticence, I think. And maybe they didn't expect the Republicans to say yes to another hearing. I don't know.
You know, Evan, the stakes are obviously very high, and the way Feinstein handled this was so questionable. Nevertheless, you know, everyone agrees that the accuser and the accused should have their chance to speak in public about this. I hope it happens on Monday. I'm just not sure what it's going to resolve.
I do too, and I think that Tammy is right, that Senator Feinstein has some explaining to do. And you have to remember, she's in a re-election bid against a progressive challenger who's now attacking her for the way she handled this. And that's, I mean, win. Up is down. It's amazing to see that happen. But also, we do run the risk as Republicans of, if Dr. Ford does testify, we can come off the wrong way and really upset women. We have to be able to have questions where we just seek the truth. We may never know the truth of what happened that night 36 years ago or 37 years ago. But what we have to do is come off as compassionate, sympathetic, and understanding. And I know Democrats want to delay, and get it to the past the midterms. And then once it's at the midterms, they'll say, well, it's a lame duck session. Let's wait until January because they're hoping they'll have the majority and can force a more moderate nominee.
It's all political. This is not a search for the truth at all.
But I will add the one thing that I think it is important that Dr. Ford take this opportunity to do so. And Susan Collins put forward a reasonable plan of, why don't we allow the counsel for Judge Kavanaugh to cross-examine Dr. Ford.
You like that idea?
And it's a good compromise than the FBI thing. We need to have the FBI and the delay. Right. And then Dr. Ford's counsel can cross-examine Judge Kavanaugh. I think that is the most fair compromise that we
And
can find.
who's the judge there? Who, when someone says, you know...
the Senate Judiciary Committee.
Okay.
I got to step to the defense a little bit of Senator Feinstein. I really do. There was a reason she held that letter. Remember, she didn't even share it with the other Democrats on the committee. She was asked by who we now know to be Dr. Ford not to share it. It wasn't until Ford's name leaked via the press that it no longer was relevant to hold it back.
But Rick, considering the nature of the allegations, even when she interviewed Kavanaugh, Judge Kavanaugh, she didn't bring it up with him, though.
No, she didn't. She didn't. And that's where I think there can be some criticism. But I don't see it as a political assassination. Look,
but how can you, this is the point of how this was handled from the start, indicates that it was just that. He's a sitting federal judge now, and there's an allegation against a man in already a lifetime appointment. She says nothing to the FBI, nothing to the other.
But when you get something in confidence, you keep it in confidence.
But at the same time, this is a woman that we know it took a polygraph, got an attorney months, at least a month before. But all of that, see, they want this to be the conversation.
Yeah, but see, I'm not defending the woman yet. No, I can't do that because I haven't heard her testimony. But if you're right, Tammy, by the way, and if she's trying to make a deal to not have to be interviewed under oath, forget this whole thing.
Well, that's what Bob Corker said today, but let me bring Evan into this.
I may just add in, because your concerns about how we appear. The assault on women is handling this like a political football. That is the mitigating factor, the thing that dismisses the nature of women's lives, this incredibly important issue, by handling it as just another tool in the tool chest to eliminate a political opponent. That is the insult to women across this country who've experienced sexual violence, domestic violence, and all those things that we live with every day, frankly. And I think that's the sensitivity, the fact that women deserve better.
Sure.
The irony is that if Kavanaugh goes away, it's not like the president sitting there to appoint somebody else who's a liberal. You're going to get somebody else who thinks exactly like Kavanaugh,
Because
or
this is a
maybe
message
even
to
more
not
conservative.
Democrats
everywhere.
can run the clock and get it to January and get to 50-50 or a Senate majority.
Well,
then they have
that's
leverage
true.
over the president to say, give us
That's
somebody
true.
more
That's fair.
moderate, more
Right.
And it
merit.
signals
Where does
to
this put the
Republicans
judge, though?
everywhere.
Let's say he goes through this on Monday. We know they're really aiming at 4 potential senators, right? I mean, it's really about, I
Right.
think, Flake, Corker, Senators Collins,
Murkowski and Collins.
I would
Murkowski.
add 2 more, actually,
Okay.
and Tim Scott and Ben Sass.
Okay, so let's say we have those 6 that really are looking at this probably the most objectively, right? If he is confirmed, will this taint him as a Supreme Court justice? Will there be a dark cloud over him in the years to come?
Within certain sectors of the public. We still see it with Clarence Thomas. And Justice Thomas, whenever he issues a ruling, I hear it from my liberal friends. Oh, sexual harasser. And I think this is going to follow Judge Kavanaugh if he is confirmed, and that's a very big concern
See,
of
I
mine.
don't know
From
that
a
that's
legitimacy
true.
of the
Well, Rick, let me say, there was an article written by Andrew McCarthy. It said, Democrats Kavanaugh and the end of civilization. In other words, saying Democrats spent so much time blocking and tackling for Bill Clinton that for 2 decades, that all of this stuff is so backed up and that it's hurt even now, the ability to adjudicate this in a way that's believable.
There's some truth to that, as Andrew's stuff usually does have at least a measure of truth. Look, we have to remember that we're in a different era. If that hearing comes off on Monday, if Dr. Ford does agree to testify under oath, then you're going to see very different behavior on the part of Democrats and Republicans, because this is not 1991. This is a very different thing. And I got to tell you something. We don't like
if I may,
the justice, not because of what happened with Anita Hill, but because we think he's been a perfectly awful justice.
Rick, let me just say that we think this is just about this position. This instead is really signaling to every professional individual, everyone that Trump would want to have in the White House, to appoint somewhere, that you'd better not do it, because this is what they're going to do to everyone who steps up. And this is why he has to be defended and must not retreat, and why the Republicans must defend him in this regard.
I will say I just saw an ad right before the show that had President Trump, Roy Moore, and Judge Kavanaugh in the same ad.
Yeah, that's not fair.
That's tough stuff.
Even as I said to you, he is not Roy Moore.
Let's leave it there. Thank you all very, very much. Appreciate it.